everyone, welcome back to my channel. I feel like it has been so long since I posted a video. I think it's only been about 2 weeks, but it feels like forever because in that time I have been on a holiday to New York, which was absolutely incredible. I'm obsessed with New York. I want to go back immediately. But of course, when I was in New York, I had to go book shopping, had to have a little nosy around some well-known bookstores, but then also some not so well-known bookstores. So I thought for this video, I would show you around some of the bookstores that I visited in New York. Now, I only bought one book, which is absolutely crazy to me, but I was so shocked at how expensive all the books are in America. It is crazy. So we did go to some secondhand bookstores and some newer bookstores, but yeah, I only bought one book. I actually left some space in my case to bring some books home, but when I saw how expensive they were and I knew I could get them cheaper in the UK, I just couldn't bring myself to buy them. However, I still had an amazing time exploring all these amazing bookshops. So without further ado, I will talk you through some of the bookstores that I went to. So the first bookstore that I went to was a very unusual one, to say the least. It was a secondhand bookstore come pickle shop, and it's located in the Lower East Side. I had an amazing time that day exploring around all the amazing vintage shops, which was so fun, and I stumbled upon this bookstore, and yeah, it sold books and pickles. I must say, I think I'd be more inclined to buy the pickles from there than the books from there. There's such a cool array of loads of different pickles, which I thought was so cool. The books didn't necessarily jump out at me. It was quite a small, cramped store with loads and loads of books. And I feel like if I'd had a good long afternoon to spend there, I'm sure I would have found some amazing secondhand books. But yeah, what a cool concept. I can safely say I have never been to a pickle store come bookshop before. So I'm so glad that I got to visit this place and I just sort of stumbled upon it. So yeah, that was my first bookstore that I went to. Didn't buy any books there, unfortunately. But then the second bookstore that I went to was right next to the Rockefeller, and that was another independent bookstore called McNally Jackson. But I really enjoyed this bookstore. It was an independent one, but in a really popular area. It felt really light and bright and well curated. There was lots of little hidden passages around there. I thought this was a really great bookstore, and I wish I could have spent a bit longer in there because I really enjoyed it. I loved how they laid it out. There was lots of different sections to the store, really amazing authors and really amazing well-known books. So yeah, really loved this one and would definitely go back to this one. Really enjoyed it. And then the one we all know, the most popular bookstore, which is the Strand. And I was so excited to go to the Strand. And don't get me wrong, I loved it. It was the book lover's dream. Just absolutely piled high with books. There was 3 floors, I think. I only went down to the basement floor and the main floor, which had all the normal fiction books in there, and yeah, I loved it. You feel like you're absolutely engulfed in books. The amount of books in that store is staggering. However, I must say it was a very overwhelming experience. There was books just everywhere, piled high. You had to get up on ladders to get to some, and I really love going into a bookstore where it feels super curated. It feels like the owner of the store or the people who work there have inputted their taste into what is presented. I just love that, and it makes bookstores feel really unique and individual, which I just really appreciate. Whereas the Strand, I can definitely say it did not feel curated in any way. There was just books absolutely everywhere, and it made it really difficult to actually look through them. I'm going to say we were there for quite some time. It must have been at least an hour, and you can't even scratch at the surface because it feels like you have to sort of really root through the books, which is super fun, don't get me wrong, for, you know, an afternoon browsing in a bookstore, but I must say it was extremely overwhelming. However, when I was there, I did actually get a book, and that is Stephen King, A Memoir of the Craft on Writing, and I've heard so many amazing things about this book, so I had to pick it up when I saw it. And I believe it's a must read for anyone wanting to write a book, so I thought I would pick it up because I would absolutely love to write a book. One of my New Year's resolutions this year was to write the first draft of my book. I have not done that. I have made some progress with it, but definitely not as much as I would like. And obviously we are getting into the end of September now, near October, so the end of the year. So I thought this book will spur me on, give me some helpful tips, hopefully to finally finish my first draft of my book. Fingers crossed, we shall see. I just know for a fact it's going to be in my next year's resolutions as well, but I'm determined to get it done because I would love to write a book so much. So yeah, this is my only book that I picked up in New York, but a very good one, I think, so I'm very pleased with it. Then the next store that I went to, well, the next two stores that I went to are located in Brooklyn. This is where we stayed, and if you haven't been to New York before, or you have and you're wanting to go again, I highly recommend staying in Brooklyn. It was such an enjoyable experience. It had such like a local community feel, gorgeous parks, amazing restaurants. So yeah, I just absolutely love staying in Brooklyn so much. So the first bookstore that I went to was called Word. And again, this is another independent bookstore. I really enjoyed this store. It felt super curated. I loved how they laid it out. When you walked in, there was a table and they'd color coordinated all the books in pink. And that was just a bit of me. I love that so much. Really appreciated that. They had a great range of authors with some really cool editions in there, which I just really appreciated. I love a good book cover, and the editions there did not disappoint. Again, quite a small little bookstore, but really enjoyed it. And if the books weren't so expensive, I would have bought quite a few books in there because yeah, I love their range they had. And for such a small store, I really enjoyed how they'd curated it. So love that one and would definitely go back again. And then the final store that we went to was by far the most unique, let's say. It was such a wacky little store, and not necessarily to my taste, but I really appreciated it. You walked in and there was such an array of knickknacks that you were greeted with. There was stuff absolutely everywhere. So not only did it sell books, but it also sold records and prints. And it looked like it had a lot of independent little zines, like short little books that I think maybe independent creators might have made. There was a cat sleeping in the back. There was ornaments everywhere. There was just so much going on. And you know what? I really appreciated it. Not necessarily my type of books, I guess, in there. There was a few good ones that I saw when I was rooting around a little bit. But even though it wasn't necessarily for me, I'm so glad I went because it was such a unique little store. And I just love things like that, where it feels so unique to the person who owns the store or the people who work there. That's what I love in a bookstore. I feel like sort of anyone can have a bookstore, but to make it your own and let it reflect who you are as a person, that's what I just absolutely love. This one had such a cool gothic feel to it. So if you're ever in Brooklyn, I highly recommend giving it a visit. So they are all the bookstores I went to in New York, but I know that I have not even scratched the surface with the amount of bookstores that are in New York. If I ever go again to New York, which hopefully I will, I'll be sure to capture some more in my visit. So I hope you will use this video if you ever go to New York and visit some amazing bookstores. But thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in my next one.